Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Footy Classified. 8 teams become 6 on the opening weekend of finals action. Plenty of news to get to, so let's welcome in our panel. One of the finest journalists in the country is Damien Barrett. Damo, great to have you again.
Good evening, Sam.
The man with all the medals, Jimmy Bartell. Welcome to you, James.
Good evening, Sam.
And the 12-time leading goal kicker, the Essendon legend, Matthew Lord-Lordo. Great to have you as always.
Thanks, Sam.
And Sam, one of the biggest selection dilemmas in the finals this year is Bobby Hill at Collingwood, and you've got an update tonight.
So this is fascinating, boys. We know he has played at AFL level just once in the last 10 weeks. That was against Brisbane back in round 21. He came on as the sub. He's played one game in the VFL and the practice match on the weekend and kicked four. There's a man who has emerged as a crucial figure in all of this, and that is Eddie Betts, the man who dominated against Collingwood for so many games, against Carlton and then Adelaide. He's a crucial figure in the Indigenous community when it comes to footy. And it's my understanding that in the last few weeks, he put it on himself to reach out privately, just as a mate, and say, hey, how are you going? And that has led to a day-to-day mentorship, friendship. It's even resulted in Eddie being there at Collingwood training. And from what I can understand from Collingwood, although he's not involved in an official capacity, Eddie Betts really has played a huge part in allowing Lordo the conversation to move to, well, we just couldn't risk him, to, well, if he puts in 2 weeks of solid training here, this guy's a chance.
Yeah, whether he gets back in or not, how good is that from Eddie Betts? Just the care and the love he has for somebody like Bobby Hill and all the Indigenous players within the game.
Did it with Tyson Stengel when he was at Geelong, has worked with Jamara Ugle-Hagan, or at least tried to. So it's not the first player he's done it for, but completely off his own back.
And Eddie Betts never got to be a premiership player. So Bobby Hill already is. He's a Norm Smith medalist, but they're so hard to get to. And I'm sure Eddie's imparting on him, saying you never know if another opportunity is going to come. So you now need to, Damo, get in there, give it your best shot to try and force your way back in, because he'll have the biggest regrets of all time if he's not part of it. You've
been strong as recently as even this show last week, saying that your reading of this situation was one that could not have him possibly come back in. Does this give it hope?
Well, it gives a bit more hope, I suppose, but Eddie Betts isn't going to be the final answer. It's going to be what he's showing them on the training track, and I think he has to. There's not many opportunities to play. The odd scratch match is worth probably 5% of what an AFL game is. So one game in 10 weeks. Yes, he's far more talented than what's out there, but I'd go the match-hardened players over what he's doing.
And look, this is great that he did get this hit out on the weekend, but it was an arranged, soft game between two clubs that weren't even part of the system. Jimmy, if they don't make a decision to play him in the prelim final, does that really matter for the year? I mean, I say that because if they get through into a grand final, do you have this whole conversation still going on in grand final week?
I think you do, Damo, and I think if he keeps fronting up to training and performing well, and whenever we've heard Collingwood players speak, it feels like building the trust of the group, and by doing that is training well, it is scratch matches, performing really well, it's fronting back up, it's backing up, because what happens if a small forward goes down in a preliminary final? No, I'm not wishing that upon any Collingwood player, but just hypothetically, if it's McCreery, I'm just plucking one small forward, Bo, I'm not jinxing you, but he is the obvious small forward to come in next because of his talent. He has performed, as you mentioned, Lordo, Norm Smith medalist, so I still think the door is ajar only if he wins the trust back of the group, he trains hard and he's ready to go. You just never know what can happen. We've seen Marlon Pickett debut in a grand final.
And the door seems like it's ajar for Jeremy Howe as well, so that's the other dilemma. Now, Craig McRae said that they are risk takers, they just want them to be able to perform. You're big, though, from a coaching perspective on you can only risk so many going into finals. So if they both put their hand up, if Hill puts in 2 weeks of training, if Howe's knocking down the door, can you play both of them?
No, you can't. You can only play one. And I was big on that. It was Stringer or Hogan, not two of them. It's just one, particularly with playing in the same area on the ground. And also they'll bring in Kelly, but you can't have too many. So I think it'd be one or the other. And I think Howe's sort of like he's a leader. He's a leader at the club. They have so much love and respect for Jeremy Howe and what he brings. They feel lost at times. You know, I know when they lost their way, they said we were lost because Jeremy Howe wasn't there. So I think he's the one, if they were both fit. I know it's got to be role-based, but would get the nod.
Could you play Howe as the sub?
Well, I don't see why you couldn't, Sam. I think that's where Steele, who was the sub on the weekend, would be vulnerable. You go Jeremy Howe, we can play him back, we could play him forward. So he's very versatile to do that.
These are all big and bold selection calls required. They made one, didn't they, Craig McRae, going into this game against Adelaide by dropping Dan McStay and picking Mason Cox, who had a moment early, but equally he had better positive moments throughout the course of the game. And Sam, you're a massive advocate for this guy's inclusion, and it was validated in a very large way in the qualifying final.
It just seems like to me, Lordo and Jimmy, this guy structurally changes them. And it's a team that needed some sort of structural change, given the drop-off in form. Now, you can't say Coxing was the reason that they won, but what is the element that he brings to this team that others can't, Jimmy?
Well, when the game turns long, slow down the line, he's a very difficult man to outmark. At least, force the spoil, and guess who that brings into play? All those front and square players, the midfielders, Dacos, those small forwards that we highlighted. He also can pinch hit in the ruck a lot better than McStay. He actually gets his hand on the footy really well in centre bounces, Lauder.
And he gives, where I think Collingwood would be hard to be a small forward at, is Membry and Myercheck. They're not big, so they're more your lead-up types. So with Mason Cox, if you're a crummer, you know exactly where you're going to be going. So Mason doesn't take too many marks, but he gets his hands up. You know exactly where to get to the fall of the ball, and that's where he helped them straighten them up a fair bit.
The juxtaposition to that was that Adelaide's big men didn't perform.
No, and I'm a fan of Riley Thilthorpe, and everyone would be. Most are, because he was an All-Australian player, but he's someone that would have stared at the ceiling all night saying, what happened? Like, how did I get to this point? So this is one where should have taken the shot, didn't. But he's better than this, so this is another. So we saw him pull out the first time, not take the shot, and pull out a second time. So he's one that will want to work hard. These are the numbers. Yes, that this is about 40 games of football where there's only been 3 key forwards who have kicked 5 goals or more. But it's about, because the game becomes more defensive, it becomes harder, there's numbers back. But Thilthorpe, I can't wait to see his first contest against the Hawks on Friday night after what he would have had to sit through in the review.
It is hard being a key forward and kicking big bags in big finals.
Yeah. I'm not going to fall with that.
First final in 2000, I think one man kicked 7, but we digress. Let's talk about the Hawks and the Giants. Jimmy called this a long, long time ago, what they needed to do, what they didn't do. But first, let's hear from the coach, Adam Kingsley. Adam Kingsley, in one of his reactions after the game.
Well, the message is keep putting yourself in that position. Keep putting you in a position where you can fail on the big stage and be incredibly disappointed, but if you're not there, you'll never feel it. And so we've got to just work our backsides off over the summer again to get back into finals.
Well, working butts off, I'm thinking, what does that mean? Because every AFL team's working hard. They worked hard the last off-season.
So what does it all mean?
The last off-season about that is, well, how can they not be so fair weather? Why are they so poor and fluctuate? And Damon, you had a fantastic graphic on the Sunday Footy Show yesterday about the 3 games have been miles in front, fallen away, and then they're down and they come back. So they've got all the talent, but they don't defend the ground like premiership teams do. And Jimmy, I asked Jimmy, obviously Jimmy's been a director of football there for a number of years ago, for a long time, and I put this to Jimmy a while back. Actually, it was on the Furnace where Jimmy also spoke about it, and this is where we've got to.
Mids and forwards, we've highlighted 2 in particular. There's the initial contest. That's Briggs and Daniels. Watch how quickly they turn in just to a walk. Are you really pushing back to help out? So the Giants have got to have a good look.
Yep.
Energy, effort, it's got to be for 4 quarters. Can't switch off. And it's got to be on everybody because team defence is letting them down.
Yeah, we're coming into this game the best defence in the competition. No one really talked about that. We kept the best offence in the competition over 24 rounds to 55 points.
Defence has been our real strength all year. You know, we're the number 1 team over the whole season for points against, so you can't fake that.
So Craig McRae and Darcy Moore there, Jimmy, reinforcing the points you made previously, and they stand for something, the Pies, when it comes to defence, and you feel that this club doesn't?
Well, this clip here is symptomatic of the way the Giants play. So very quick to give up on defence, and when you get it as a side, you become a very special side, and Collingwood have done that, Geelong have done that, they've won premierships, and by that I mean is when you actually understand that every action you take on the footy field has a knock-on effect for your teammates. And we'll show a highlight regarding Geelong with the way they defended Brisbane. But that means when you're not involved in the play, which those 3 Giants players highlighted, it's what am I doing to help my team to make them better? Am I cutting out the release? Am I pushing up in defence? And too much of the Giants was based on talent this year. Their numbers reflected that. That's not an opinion. There is actually stats backing that up.
Is that a choice? Like, are you saying it's a selfishness?
I don't think it's with a selfish intent. I think they have really focused on the tsunami, which is ballistic. It's taking the ball forward. But too much of their game this year was your turn, our turn. We've got better talent for the footy, better talent behind the footy. And then Green and Callaghan will try and do their best through the midfield. It's actually just having that connection and really getting it and understanding. I know I've made that sound really simplistic, but once it does click and you as a unit, you become a really powerful side. And then it doesn't matter having someone kick 5 or 6, or it doesn't matter as we need all 3 mids to have 35. You can actually play this system, which sounds a boring word, and process that stacks up in really big finals. So just to finish that point, is when they were 40+ points up in those finals or 5 goals up, because they actually don't understand it, you actually always give the window to the opposition to get back in the game. So that means you go forward, looks really good, we don't use it, then they get the release mark. But guess where that release mark ends up? In the opposition's forward line. They kick another goal, and you can't stop it.
These are long days, and I feel months for the Giants as they wrestle with losing in a way the past 3 seasons that fell well short of their own expectations. And then you look at these contracts that they've got, which they're clearly beholden to, and the currency on some of these players, is it still as it once was when these deals were signed? There's injury issues amongst a few of those. Kelly came on as the sub and was brilliant on the weekend. You can't blame him. But
so you're worried about these deals, Damo?
I'm worried about the long-term element of them, and I'm worried about what it does by way of restricting what they can do. They might have to actually move 1 or 2 of those players out, open up a conversation they may not have intended to have had even last week. But I don't think you can have what happened now the last 3 seasons, particularly last year when it was straight sets, 44 points, 28 points up against the 2 teams that were grand finalists, and even on the weekend, retrieving a 42-point deficit but still losing. So they've got the ability when they need it in the finals, they just don't win. They've lost their last 4.
Tough conversations, it must be said, for Fremantle as well. You've been pretty strong with them in the way that they play. They looked a different team in the last quarter, but it's not as though we didn't see that coming. And we've heard from opposition coaches in the build-up to that against the Dockers.
They're AFL 18 for the pace of ball movement, that they're AFL 4 from scoring from fast transitions. You can figure that out, let me know.
They play good brand of footy when they're up and going fast, isn't it? Like, maybe they should play a bit more of that at times. It's a good version of them.
And for 3 quarters, they were pedestrian. Full credit to the Gold Coast Suns because Rowell and Anderson and these guys were phenomenal. But where was it? In a big final, they just didn't seem... They looked flat to me. And I know Brayshaw and Sarong and those guys came to life. But look at that speed of ball movement, 40% to 70.
Yeah, that's always been my point, Lordo, is actually trust your defence a bit more because I think it's a very good defence. You're very good from stoppage, and I think they play that slow, long down the line game too much because it brings... their 2 rucks and midfielders back into play. But if you've got, Tracy, Amos, of course, Voss on the forward line, I think Frederick's dynamic. Swatowski, I know, who wasn't fit. But they've got enough forward the footy. Like, just give them quicker looks.
On the team that beat them, if you speak to people at the Gold Coast Suns, particularly the players, they'll say it's not just the aura of the premierships that Damien Hardwick has brought, but it's the way he talks to them publicly. Not just to them behind closed doors, but the way he's spoken to them in private. And it's finally in public, and it's finally paid off.
I'm angry, to be fair. And as a footy club, we've got to grow the up, to be perfectly honest. Excuse the language, but you're playing for a finals campaign. If you need me to sit there and give you a motivational speech to want to play your first finals campaign in our organisation's history, then you're playing the wrong game. Our players have got to pick themselves up. They've got to lead from the front. They're going to take charge. I'm going to hand it over to them. And we're going to see what this group's made of, because they are made out of something special.
Well, they've changed the narrative, this playing group, which is so important. At the end of the day, we've been a club that has been probably, I don't want to say ridiculed, but, stomped on, forgotten. But all of a sudden now, the narrative's changed.
I love it from Damien Hardwick. There's some real grit under the hood. They're tough. They have an absolute crack at the contest, and they feel like a real footy club that is going to stand for something and, go into bat and not just roll over every single time the opposition comes at them. And that was an incredible reward for going over there in the West and just gritting out an unbelievable win.
Sam, he was one of the nastiest players I ever played with, and he's got that side.
Nastiest?
Nasty. Oh, he was nasty. He was. I wouldn't have wanted to play on him. That's how nasty he was. And he's got that side to him as a coach, but he's also an amazing relationship builder. So that's the perfect mix, I think, when you've got a bit of both. You've got that nasty glint in your eye edge, but you're also got a great ability to build relationships.
That's 4 nasties.
Yeah.
Nasty start on Footy Classified. Plenty more coming up, including Nathan Buckley. Plenty of big names in the spotlight. Lordo and Jimmy will pull apart the next 2 semis. Plus, that man I was meant to talk about, Nathan Buckley, his chances with the Collingwood legend ending up a demon or down south as a devil. And later, it's the water cooler as Adelaide's handling of the Rankin controversy raises eyebrows. It's Footy Classified, and it continues right after this.
I thought Geelong's pressure and intensity, reaction time, they just looked sharper than us tonight. They were really ready tonight to go. I thought we were, but they were much better than us. They were in charge of the game from the word go. They just felt like we were just trying to claw our way back in all night, and we couldn't get there.
Hard to believe we'd be saying this a week ago, but the premiership defence of the Brisbane Lions now hanging by a thread. One of the key issues that seems to be emblematic of their problems, Lordo and Jimmy, is Charlie Cameron.
Yeah, this vision's damning of Charlie Cameron, what he did on the weekend. So he kicks the first goal of the game, and then he has one touch afterwards. That was just a missed tackle, but he was just... Watch this effort. He just jumps out of the way, like he's not looking to make pressure, and then you lose. Yeah, confidence is one thing, so we can make poor efforts, Jim, when you're down on confidence too.
Yeah, and I wonder whether they consider Lachie Neale goes out and having him part of that midfield rotation. Like, do you start the first bounce and just get him to charge forward, or get him involved in the game early and get a couple of touches to build the confidence? Because then you feel like you're part of the game. That might be with a tackle, you feel body on body, and that might, just supercharge him to get back close to some of the touch that we expect.
Yeah, if you're not getting the ball, you've got to bring something else to the table with your pressure, and he's not doing either, unfortunately.
Could you do that, though? I mean, you're the coach among us. Would that be a risk, given you're going in against your Andersons and your Rows, or is it worth the risk given how poorly
Well, I'd say
playing?
Stringer and Pickett are good at it, but they're big. Yep. They're big, so that'd be my only worry for Charlie Cameron, who could get monstered, yeah.
Yeah, obviously they're a losing qualifying finalist alongside Adelaide, and since 2016 with the post-round 24 bye that's been kicked in, they've twice now gone out in straight sets, the Lions. I personally feel they will respond pretty hard against the Suns on the weekend, but it does expose these top four teams to going out in straight sets in a way that didn't happen prior to the system being introduced. You can see it only happening 4 times in the 11 seasons prior to it being introduced.
Hey, the Geelong Footy Club were unbelievable watching that game, and he's right, Chris Fagan, he said they were just, Jimmy and I called the game together, and they were just better in every department of the game, and it was how destructive they were. So they defend as well as any team as well, but it was just the ball use and their connection inside 50. I've always marvelled at it. But then it was also just the midfield and the speed and the power. And this is still a good Brisbane midfield. But you look at this, they can't even lay a glove. Like the Ashcrofts and Neale while he was on the field. But Cluggage was rattled. They targeted him, went after him. Look at that Starcevic, getting jumped. So they made these reigning premiers look second-rate, didn't they, Jimmy, the other night, with just how good they were?
Yeah, they threw lots of magnets around, but the movement from everybody. And once the mids are moving, the forwards get on the move. They got their spare number behind the ball, which they love. And then once they got the ball back, it was just pretty much keepings off.
And we felt the scoreboard flattered.
It did.
The Lions in the end could have been far bigger had it not been for those decisions.
That double free kick, yep.
A lot of the wins that we saw in week 1 of the 2025 final series were off the back of decisions made about this time last year to bring in talent from other clubs. And look, this is the snapshot of the additions that the clubs that won on the weekend ultimately got in the player exchange period last year. When you look at those 3 player names for Collingwood, you also add, Sam, I feel, the decision they made in season, and it was an aggressive decision to get the body of Jordan De Goey right. But they can do that as a confident, as a successful club. Obviously, what Geelong brought in was quite profound, particularly with Bailey Smith, and now Jack Martin is having a really solid effect. We knew what the Gold Coast Suns wanted to do with that half-back run, and clearly the 2 key defenders the Hawks brought in has allowed them to set up in a way that they really like to set up. Sicily stayed back, Weddle moved forward, and the backline players they brought in ultimately were the reason they stayed firm against that onslaught of the Giants.
It's a great point that you raised, Damo. The preparation for September starts a long way before it. Speaking of a couple of guys who know how to dominate big finals in September, it's the final spotlight with Lordo and Jimmy.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam. And the Suns were one of the stories, Jimmy, of what they did. They didn't just want to play a final, they wanted to win a final. It was their ball movement against Fremantle, which was electric, and they were tough. And then once they got it, they ran and carried really well. Yeah, well said, Lordo. And we have a look at a couple of the efforts here. That's an absolute moonball kicked here, but it's the contest from King. Don't get outmarked. But the outnumber at the front and square, as you mentioned, tough but clean in a contest. That's what you need from finals. Love that shifting off the line. And they didn't just accept they were caught up the ground. So all these edits, it's a high half forward or a forward who pushes up first to defend. But then they're first back, and that's why they kept having that almost an extra number inside forward 50. When this one plays out, again, the moon ball up, big contest for the footy. Rao, clean, hands, but it's a running overlap. Look at these players for the Gold Coast Suns working their backside off. The brick here, Budrick, front and square, but he started 70 metres out, and that's how you get good results, big games, high work rate and being clean. Good, Jimmy. The Brisbane Lions forward line was dysfunctional, I thought, against Geelong. And I thought Morris has had a really quiet couple of weeks. Gallup and Day just aren't up to AFL finals football. So they have to do something different. So let's take a look at what went on. So it was these guys were non-competitive. So Geelong took 20 intercept marks in this final. So it's a bare minimum. Kevin Sheedy was like, get the ball to ground, otherwise you're coming off the ground. Back in the day, you used to get dragged if you were outmarked once. And this happened to them 20 times. So my suggestion is that you give Rayner the 50, you give Zach Bailey the 50, these type of players. So in this last clip, you see they hit up, and this is Logan Morris, who's up high, and you see that the tools of Gallup and Day are up higher, just to give Rayner the 50. So I think Sam Collins will dominate, Jimmy, the other big boys. So how can they try and expose these smalls?
Yeah, and try and just get on the move. And this is what the Suns should do that the Cats did. And this is what I absolutely love about football. Our philosophy on defending the ground. So we just pause here. Outside shoulder, covered, outside shoulder over you, outside shoulder, and you end up getting the spares here. So where are you going to go if you're the Lions, which allows all these players here, just go as hard as you want, be as creative as you want, because where are you going to go as a Lions? Quick kick, Jack Henry reacts, that's how you get two spare backs, and you cannot transition the ball. So that's what we're talking about. Someone like the Giants need to learn. That's squeezing the ground. That is suffocating football.
Yeah, Matty Rowell was dominant, but Bailey Humphrey, well, there's signs of a bit of dusty about him, a bit of the go-y, and Jimmy predicted this a long time ago.
Yeah, I love the Bear. He's going to be that point of difference player. They're the type of guys in big games, big moments, where 5 minutes, a guy like Bailey Humphrey can win you a final in 5 minutes. Well, he nearly did in 5 minutes. He used 15 minutes to kick 3 goals in the second quarter. He kicked back-to-back goals, Bailey Humphrey. And yes, I do love the Bear. I love players who are creative. They can get you in multiple ways. We know he's so good below his knees. He's really strong. So if you actually put a bigger play on him, he's going to get your ground level. You play a smaller player, he's very good in the one-on-one marking contest. So a type of player in the front half, forward 50 in particular, 10 touches, he can take the game away from you really quickly. So we saw ground ball, mark, stoppage. Not sure why you'd leave him all on his own in a final there, because that's what he'll do. He'll make you pay.
Starcevic, would it be like someone like that? Or?
Someone really disciplined. Starcevic has probably got the physicality to go with him.
Jimmy, who do you like?
If the Suns are in the guava, which they're going to be, I'm tipping the Suns in the pineapple grapple.
Yeah, I'm going for the Brisbane Lions. So the other game, obviously, is Hawthorn and the Adelaide Crows, Jimmy. And there was just non-contributors everywhere for Adelaide. You cannot win a final if you have this many blokes not touching the football. So their best didn't play that well. But look how many of them. Like, this is more than half their team who had under 12 disposals. You know, so, as I said, Dawson was a bit off, and you got Thilthorpe who was off, and Fogarty was off. But then the rest of them didn't contribute too much either.
Yeah, and I think the template is there for the Hawks. We showed this last night on Footy Furnace. The Pies bringing up the extra forward. So it can serve a couple of purposes for the game. It can actually pull apart Adelaide's really good defence, but it gives you a fair bit of cover to put pressure on and to get the intercept mark. So we saw the first one. Schultz started there. Dacos, the wizard here on the left foot. Guess who gets it? It's Schultz. But it's actually pulling Adelaide's defence apart. He's again up in the contest, but it gives you this player here, which is Pendles to drop off, give you cover. Schultz gets it again, but again, Adelaide's defence is pulled apart. And here's another example, Connor McDonald, who this week, he still follows his man up defensively. And look who's the first man working hard back. He kicked 3 goals. You'd think this week it'll be Guinea, it'll be Watson, McDonald, Moore, all come up, bring one up to the contest, spit forward. Lipinski.
Are they not seeing it out well enough, the Crows defenders?
Well, I think what it's doing is because they all want to get set back, they all want to intercept the footy. I think their intent's right, but you've got to acknowledge what the opposition's doing to you. So Ginnivan here comes up to the contest and spits forward. So if you're a small forward for the Hawks, bring up your half back to the contest, pulls them apart, which gives you better looks for your forward, gives you enough pressure for your backs to come over and intercept, that can get you some good looks on the attacking counter or the counter play.
So the Collingwood defenders just dominated the Adelaide Crows, and Hawthorn have equally as good defenders. But look at the launch zone from the Adelaide Crows. So you want to not be launching from the wings. So if you launch from the wings, that allows you to set up. So you've got to get another pass around here, and then you get a bit of run and overlap, and you flatten the ball inside forward 50. Look at them. Collingwood love this. They love nothing more than to get numbers across, get the intercept, and then that starts their offence. So the Adelaide Crows weren't bold enough. We had Josh Dunkley on the Sunday Footy Show. He said, you must go at Collingwood if you're any chance. This is, look at him, there's no movement whatsoever.
So would you just encourage him to play on there, Lauder, and just get the extra 5 metres?
Yeah, sliding across, a pass here, bring it across the ground, shift, take it away from down the line, which the Adelaide Crows did. You can see here behind the ball, like Darcy Moore and these guys. Scotty Pendlebury he's just getting ready. He becomes an extra, straight down the line. And it goes straight to the Collingwood players. They're going to be bold to the Crows.
So the Hawks, they were pretty good across the whole entire day, apart from about a 10 to 15-minute patch. They just lost their way in the third quarter.
Yeah, they did, Jimmy, and it was around the midfield. So a bit like the Giants we're talking about. Like if you want to, you can win one final like they did last year, but if you want to win 2 and then 3 and potentially 4, you can't switch off. The best sides like Geelong and Collingwood won't switch off in this final series, but I thought they dropped off badly through the midfield. And a premiership team doesn't concede, I don't think, 6 or 7 goals in a burst.
Yeah, they'll tighten up around the stoppage. Now, going to the big boys up on the forward line, of course, Thilthorpe, Big Fog, and then, of course, Texan, who was very good. The Hawks brought in 2 key defenders, Barras and Battle, and you throw in the champ there, Sicily. How are you seeing these matchups at match committee?
Barras is perfect for Thilthorpe, so I think that's just, lock that one away for what he'll do. I'd love to see Battle take on Tex. Battle in great form, Tex in form for the Crows. And then Sicily, I think, can play off Big Fog, I reckon.
Do you reckon it's the Crows or the Hawks?
I like the Hawks in an upset over there in Adelaide, Jimmy. What about you?
I'm going to take the Hawks as well.
That's it, Sam.
You've jumped off the Crows quick.
What's that? I didn't. You
jumped off quick. Now they go getting straight sets.
They let me down last week, so I'm off.
Oh, great stuff coming up on Footy Classified. The water cooler next. Did the Crows drop the ball with their handling of the Isaac Rankin situation? But after Footy Classified finishes, don't go anywhere because the hottest news show in town is that one, Players. Have a look at this lineup. Tom Liberatore, one of the best players in the comp for the Western Bulldogs, Lloyd Meek. He's been starring in the ruck, and Jason Johannesson, the Norm Smith medalist. It's a big episode of Players. It's straight after Footy Classified on 9.
I want to start by saying how deeply sorry I am for what I said. There was no excuse. It was wrong, and I take full responsibility. I understand that word is offensive, it's harmful, it's hurtful, and has no place in our game or our society.
They're very passionate fans, but I also hope they also respect everybody in the ground. We're here to watch a great game of footy, just respect every other person in the ground at the same time. By and large, behaviour at this ground over the years has been pretty good.
Pretty obvious. He was the one that helped get Isaac suspended, I guess.
Yeah, I did hear a little bit of it, but to be honest, I get so locked in games. I don't really pay much mind to anything else other than what's on the field.
No, it's not one for me to comment on.
I'm not a fan of booing at any stage, and I think we've got the best crowds in the world.
Did he deserve it?
Deserve what?
The booing?
I don't think anyone deserves being booed here. I'm not sure that the headline you're trying to create there.
Welcome back to Footy Classified. It was a story that dominated so much of the week and so many of the headlines. And I think now, boys, it's been largely accepted that there has been an element, Damo, of mishandling of this situation by the AFL and by the Adelaide Crows. The question we need to ask now is how much did it affect the actual team on the night?
Yeah, and how much did it actually lead to the crowd being the way it was on the night itself? And obviously Isaac Rankin returning to Australia from the time he took away in Italy to deal with it himself. I personally didn't have an issue with him going away, and I wasn't as critical as a lot of people were with how he apologised. I thought it was genuine remorse. I can get the criticism around the timing of it, Sam, only days before that particular game, but I'm not convinced he would have been as remorseful had he tried to deliver something publicly before taking off overseas. I feel the time away actually allowed him to be that genuinely remorseful person that he was the other day. So that's that side of it, but the crowd side of it's another one, and the whole AFL handling of it, as we discussed at that point in time, to let it and allow it to drag out for 5 days has ultimately created an atmosphere whereby Adelaide Crows were trying to mitigate this issue, and now it's back in play because of the loss of the Crows in a qualifying final. He may still be able to play again this year in a grand final.
You were critical, Sam, of it. Friday night we worked together on 3AW, but you even thought the way Isaac Rankin presented, the way the Crows presented it, the timing, just the whole, you think it had a lot to do with their performance, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was a farce, to be honest. I mean, this would have been such an easier way to front up, knock it on the head on Monday morning. And if he wanted to go away then, at least he would have done a press conference, answered questions. Now, I understand people say he wasn't in the headspace, but what has ended up transpiring is that affected his team in a more negative way. And again, I think this is more on Adelaide and more on the AFL for letting this thing drag on. Not Isaac. Like, we all make mistakes. I totally understand that. But I was there on Thursday night. I thought it genuinely impacted the way that Adelaide played, because they usually jump out of the blocks. They didn't seem themselves. The booing of Isaac Quaynor was pretty embarrassing for the game. I thought I was really uncomfortable being at the ground. And I think now that, you know, the best team of the competition the whole year has put themselves in this precarious position. I mean, Tim Silvers, the CEO, said after the suspension was knocked down from 5 weeks to 4 that we don't want to, spend any more time appealing this because we think we've wasted enough energy on it. I think it was all too little, too late then. The energy had been spent, and they seemed like an organisation that went into that final thinking about other stuff than the footy. That's how it felt to me.
Yeah, it's a sad situation, honestly. Like, there's no winners out of it whatsoever.
And the victims in all this have somehow become the perpetrators. Like, how are Houston and Quaynor getting booed? They didn't do anything wrong.
No, but do you have enough faith in any crowd, in any situation, in that hometown element that clearly is at an extreme level at the Adelaide Oval in a qualifying final against the very team that it had the infringement against? Now,
I don't have a bit of an excuse, though, Damo. I mean, do we have faith? I always have faith in humanity. You always have faith in people doing the right thing.
Not footy crowds in these moments, Sam. You can have misplaced faith, and that didn't surprise me. And I'm not convinced that the way it dragged out had any impact on it. I think it would have happened anyway, and that's just where I am with these situations. We couldn't control another booing incident for very different reasons many years ago. I don't have faith that we are capable of doing it as a wider industry.
Well, it's a sad situation.
It is.
We haven't learned from that and from what happened with Adam Goods, and here we are.
But it does get back to that initial messaging. I'm critical of that from the outset, that the fact the AFL allowed the club, the Adelaide Footy Club, to let the lawyers loose for 3, maybe even 4 days before they allowed them to get it down from 5 weeks to 4. Had they dealt with this inside the 48-hour window, I feel that would have given it a chance.
On to the Melbourne Footy Club. So we know that Nathan Buckley was interviewed, or at least had one of his interviews from Melbourne today, Damo, but the whole Tassie team lurking in the background is still having some sort of impact on this, isn't it?
It is, but as you well know, Sam, and you've covered this closely than anyone that I know, there is no licence that Brendan Gale can actually wave to a Nathan Buckley. And again, I feel like you do, that he is a favourite candidate for that vacancy in the senior job. Now, today they've announced a coach, Jeremy Weberly, as the coach of the VFL, who will come into play next year. But again, it's not the AFL licence, and that is yet to be granted formally and officially by the AFL, and yet to be approved by the clubs, who ultimately have the sign-off on this.
Does he coach Melbourne or Tassie?
I still feel that it's the Melbourne Footy Club, because at least that one's it's real, it's in front of him. He was interviewed today for it, amongst other candidates, and it's a guaranteed vacancy. The other one is still, at this stage, a provisional one.
Lordy is back with a sledgehammer. It's next, plus good call, bad call, the cook, and a whole lot more on Footy Classified.
He's a villain to many, but I would love to run down the race beside Braden Maynard. Some of this vision from the other night, he was brutal. So that's just a wonderful spoil. But all these other clips, this is what wins your finals. And this is what Adelaide didn't have. This is what they didn't stand for. So Thilthorpe goes down, loses his feet. This one, at the end of the game, look, there's 8 seconds to go. And look at Braden Maynard. And then he just looks at him in the face and says, hey, do you want more of that? Do you want more of that? Because more's coming next time I see you as well. Max Holmes, he's different to Maynard, but he's one of the more brutal runners. I love this bloke. I never spoke like that about Max Holmes because I thought he wasn't tough enough, but he's tough in a different way because he's a gut runner and he runs to places no one else wants to go. Frederick, this is one of my pet peeves, particularly when I had a goal just directly out in front, when someone takes advantage, when they don't look around, no around us, and just goes back. You've got to have more of an awareness in what you're doing. Justin Longmuir was absolutely shattered with that. Murphy Reid, yes, they lost the game, but this bloke enhanced his reputation yet again in a final. These are some of the slickest handballs and feet that you're ever likely to see. Give him the rising star. He's been clearly the best player in the game. You got to be clean in finals. Look at this from Michael Annie. He fumbles. Right, that's why they lost the game. And then Dacos, he was as exquisite a finals performer as you ever likely to see with his foot skills. Side bottom, speaking of clean, this is where Adelaide were poor. Like, I'm not sure why you've got 2 blokes sitting off the stoppage and you leave one of the cleanest players the game has ever seen all by himself, and then that's all he needs. He just needs a split second and he'll make you pay, and then moments later. This is a player who's been a midfielder, but look at this forward crumbing. backing away, knowing where the fall of the ball is going to come, that was elite. And GWS, they didn't punish Hawthorn when they needed to. They had the first 12 of 15 inside 50s. That's just got to be hit. And you have a nice, easy shot for goal. That's another opportunity missed. And then Ash, good player, but that's just a blast from 50 or 60. And then this is another one. This was a real sin. 24-2. You want to put some scoreboard pressure on. Just needs to hit that. And missed another one, Sam. So they just didn't take their chances when they needed to.
Great vision as always, Lordo. Damo, but before the break, things are getting quite intense at the AFL Commission and Richard Goyder leading. What is actually happening?
Yeah, there's an old school AFL club frustration and annoyance, and it's just about to bubble over. They've had some phone hookups over the course of the weekend. They've had full phone hookups today. It's over the process to replace Richard Goyder as chair and also to replace commissioners, and they don't have faith in that process. They feel it's been changed many times. And one other element to it as well, Sam, we saw that Jeff Brown over the weekend had been reported to have withdrawn from the process, and that has been factually reported. But that does not mean that he does not remain in the race to be the Richard Goyder replacement as chair of the AFL Commission. He just, I believe, will be seeking to do it another way, away from the supposed official process that was in place and is now the source of the club's frustration.
OK, good stuff, Damo. Good call, bad call. The closing cook still to come on Footy Classified. But Jimmy Bartell is up first, and James, hell hath no theory like a scorned ruckman. Good call, bad call?
Let's take a look at your boy, Mason Cox, of course, the other night. He's taken a big grab. He's nearly given Isaac Quainer a free haircut here. Just skimmed the top of his afro there. He got very lucky, so good call from you, Sam.
Thank you.
Sam, to you, brevity is the soul of wit. Good call, bad call?
No, that's a bad call from you, Damo. That's a mean-spirited call. As Lloydie said, but that's a nasty call from you. Sometimes we just get cut off by the ads.
First blood, it's coming back. And the Purple Army get to their feet. And Patrick Voss does what Patrick Voss does. Charges and blows.
Over 25 years ago.
It's happened to all of us.
Damo, the early starts on Sundays at 9 take a bit of getting used to. Good call, bad call?
Well, take a look at what you referred to here, Lord. Are you with Rory Sloane on the Sunday Footy Show?
You'll be pretty happy with how the D's are going?
Yeah, very happy. They've got a good forward line coach, don't they?
Yeah, I've heard good things. Yeah, they've got them humming.
Shay Sloane, son of Rory. Sister of Rory. There you go. Spit that one out.
So it is a good call, Lordo. It's not his son, it's not his daughter, it was his sister. He got that out eventually.
Hey, Lordo, you had Steele Sidebottom up there in the Sledgehammer. Is he turning back the clock further than we thought? Good call, bad call?
A good call, great call. Love Steele Sidebottom call. So this is what he did, just does this for fun. He has for a long, long time. Just one of the most skillful players we've ever seen. But this is 17 years ago, as a 17-year-old with hair, Steele Sidebottom. He had 32 possessions and kicked 10 goals in the grand final.
32 and 10?
32 and 10.
Not bad.
Unbelievable.
The hair comment was nasty. Damo, to you, Sam Collins needs to give Dan Andrews a call. Good call, bad call?
I actually think this is one of your better calls for the year because poor old Sam Collins somehow, despite having a big role in the big, famous first finals win of the Gold Coast Suns, cannot be seen in that photo. There's 23 people in it, but Sam Collins is not in it. Now, the referencing to Dan Andrews, Sam, comes after the China military parade photo that he managed to get himself in, far back right corner, behind Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. So if he can get himself into that photo, Sam Collins can find himself into the Brisbane.
That's a tenuous link you've got with. That's tenuous.
Very political there. Sam, we in the media are fortunate to get the best seats in the house at the footy every week. Good call, bad call?
That is a good call from you, James. We get good seats, not quite this good. Have a look at the security guard, top right of your screen coming into play now. Didn't like the decision. No, you're supposed to be objective in the media. Not sure it's a security guard. He was Barrett.
And you were seen in 2 presidents' dinners too over the weekend. Jimmy, on-field greats. On-field greats need to treat their off-field colleagues with respect. Good call, bad.
I think this might be a good call from you, Lordo. This is Jason Dunstall going bang.
I think John Ralph will be the most unpopular man in Australia right now. I think both.
What do you mean right now?
Oh. The best bit of that is Joey Montagna's reaction there. He couldn't stop giggling. So good call from you, Lordo.
Lordy, bring it home. Nick Dacos is lucky to have learned his craft from one of the all-time greats. Good call, bad call?
That's a good call, and most of we think it was from Peter Dacos that he's learnt this, but it's got nothing to do with Peter. Let's take a look.
Oh, no. You haven't brought it back to yourself.
I don't know. Who else has he learnt this from?
It is
He's trademarked.
Are you saying that you are the only person ever to throw the grass up?
I think Nick, when he was 3 or 4 and he was watching me, 100, he maybe got a hint of this and said...
Did you lose your way a bit when you did it with the roof closed at Marvel Stadium?
That did make me look a bit cuckoo.
A bit?
Yeah. I did the Scott boys and the Pike let me know about it.
Well, when you kick 926, I think you've probably got something good going. Speaking of something good, the closing cook is exactly that, and it's next.
Maybe not for you.
I used to go to the Lost Dogs home in North Melbourne, and there's always that one puppy you felt sorry for, and it brought me back to Sam McClure on Friday, was it Thursday or Friday night, in the rooms, and I felt sorry for him. He just had no friends. He was all alone, just looking for something and searching for someone to give him something, give him some love. He was looking for high fives and handshakes. There he is. Old Scoop, just Scoop, no friends. Look at him, just trying to act busy, trying to act like he had something. So, Damo, you did text me about this on Thursday night.
I don't think I did.
No, I'm only talking.
Sam, I don't think I did, but now that I'm seeing this is very funny.
It must admit, it was going viral, that.
You knew you were on camera, though, didn't you?
Now, as someone that at a younger age craved attention, I'm happily put up my hand and say I had no idea. I did look like a lost dog, but I only realised afterwards. And now I know that Damo's tipped you into it.
I actually didn't.
Yeah. Remember, we are a team here.
I don't think I did.
Just remember that we are a team. Interesting. I'll keep that one in there. You know what, though? And well done to Connor upstairs, who clearly cut all of that. He would have been onto it on Friday night. I'll do better this week, I promise. Thanks for joining us on Footy Classified. Remember, tomorrow night, Eddie, Hurdy, Rory and Tom, who's just broken at Sam Draper, is off to Brisbane, which is a huge story. He's picked Brisbane over Adelaide. Thanks for joining us on Footy Classified.